For most of my adult life, I tracked every single dollar. Every grocery run, coffee, gas fill up, every random Target trip. I had a spreadsheet, apps, categories within categories. And I genuinely believed that if I stopped paying attention, even for a month, my whole financial life would unravel. Then I retired, and after about a year, I decided to stop keeping track of everything. It wasn't because I gave up or got lazy. Instead, I realized that keeping tabs on every single dollar can actually start to hurt you. Hi, I'm Michelle, and on my channel, we talk about creating a peaceful, confident life after 50, especially if you're living alone, traveling solo, or navigating retirement. I'm not anti-budgeting. I'm not here to tell anyone that financial awareness doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. There are really only two reasons people track every dollar: fear and need. When you're working, raising kids, paying down debt, building savings, funding retirement, tracking makes sense. It's how you build the financial life you eventually retire into. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It teaches you what things cost. It shows you patterns. It keeps you accountable. It helps you make trade-offs. For decades, I tracked because I needed to. I was a single mom, I was running a business, and I was funding my own retirement without a partner. There was no margin for being unaware, so I paid attention. When you live alone, the responsibility for every financial decision sits on you. There's no one else looking at the accounts. There's no second pair of eyes. That can make tracking feel like the only thing standing between you and chaos. But after decades of doing the work, you become the second pair of eyes. You don't need a spreadsheet to babysit you anymore. You've already become the kind of person who pays attention. But after a few months into retirement, I realized the numbers weren't telling me anything I didn't already know. But I was still going through the motion of logging it, categorizing it, and reviewing it. I realized I was treating my own judgment like it needed supervision. After 30 years of paying attention to money, after raising kids on my own, after running a business, after designing my entire retirement, I was still acting like I might be one untracked latte away from disaster. And I started to notice the cost of all of that vigilance. It wasn't freeing. It was creating this low-grade hum of guilt and second-guessing under everything I bought, even good purchases. That's when I understood that your brain in your 50s doesn't need the same systems your brain in your 20s and 30s did. After decades of practice, you know what things cost. You know what's reasonable, and you know what's unusual. The spreadsheet was teaching me nothing new, so I stopped. And what I do instead isn't me winging it. It's just a different kind of system. The first thing I do is track at account level, not the dollar level. I check my balances regularly, checking savings, investments. I know my monthly inflow and outflow at the total level. I don't categorize, I don't itemize. Instead of asking where did every dollar go, I ask, is the account healthy? Because in retirement, the goal isn't to optimize every transaction. The goal is to make sure the bigger picture stays steady. The second thing I do is rely on automatic guardrails instead of daily decisions. Bills are on auto pay. The system makes the decisions so I don't have to make them every day. Decision fatigue is a real thing, and it gets worse, not better, the older we get. Removing daily money decisions from my life frees up enormous amounts of mental energy I didn't even realize I was spending. The third thing is a monthly check-in instead of daily tracking. Once a month, I sit down and look at the big picture. Did anything surprise me? Am I living the way I want to be living? That's it. That's the whole financial review. And the fourth thing is an annual deeper look. Once a year, I do the big review, the net worth, big purchases, taxes, anything changing in the year ahead. I have a clearer picture of my finances now than I did when I was logging every coffee. Because when you track everything, you can lose sight of what actually matters. You start mistaking activity for awareness. After 30 plus years of paying attention to money, you have instincts. You can feel when something's off. You don't need a spreadsheet to tell you that you've been ordering more takeout this month, or that the grocery bill is creeping up, or that the trip you took cost more than you expected. Here's what surprised me when I actually stopped tracking. The first surprise was that my spending didn't actually go up, not in any meaningful way. Decades of habits don't just disappear because you stop watching them. I still buy groceries the way I always bought groceries. I still pause before bigger purchases. The behaviors I built over 30 years didn't vanish the moment I closed the spreadsheet. That alone changed my whole understanding of what tracking had been doing for me. It hadn't been preventing bad behavior. The good behavior was already mine. The tracking was just paperwork on top of it. The second surprise was how much lighter I felt. Money stopped being a daily background hum of guilt. There's a kind of mental space that opens up when you stop categorizing your life. I didn't realize how much energy I'd been spending on financial tracking until I stopped. The third surprise was that I actually enjoyed money more. When you've tracked every coffee for 30 years, even good purchases come with a faint shadow of, should I have? That shadow lifted. A nice dinner became a nice dinner, not a transaction to log. A trip became a trip, not a series of categories. The pleasure stopped having a trail of paperwork attached to it. And the fourth surprise was that I made better decisions, not worse ones. Without the constant hum of small calculations, I had more space for the bigger questions. Is this trip worth it? Is it a season to spend or a season to hold? Does this purchase actually fit the life I want to be living? Those questions matter so much more in retirement than the question of whether I spent $11 or $14 on lunch. And the fifth surprise, I started trusting myself more. I used to feel like my judgment needed constant checking. But for those of us living alone, it's pretty amazing to realize that you don't need a system to look after you. You're the adult, and you've been an adult for a while now. Now, I want to be honest about who this approach probably isn't for, because I'm not here to tell everyone to do something that doesn't fit their life. If you're paying down debt, keep tracking. Tight tracking is the exact right tool for that season. Don't put the spreadsheet away yet. Get the debt gone first. This isn't permission to skip the foundation work. You earn the freedom to step back by doing the years of work first. You need to know what things cost. You need to know your patterns. That knowledge is what eventually becomes your instinct. But the instinct doesn't come without the practice. If you're newly retired, I'd actually keep tracking for the first year. You need that information. Retirement spending looks different from working life spending, and you need to see what your actual numbers are before you stop watching them. Give yourself a year of attention, then you can decide whether to keep going or to step back. And if money anxiety would get worse without tracking, keep tracking. Peace is the actual goal here, not minimalism for its own sake. If a spreadsheet is what helps you sleep at night, that spreadsheet is doing the real work. This isn't about doing less, it's about doing what actually fits your life right now. Tracking is a tool, it's not a virtue. And your relationship with money should evolve as your life evolves. You don't have to manage your retirement the way you managed your working years. The whole point of all of that work was to arrive somewhere different. The shift from tracking every dollar to checking in once a month wasn't me becoming careless. It was me finally believing that the work I'd done was real. So tell me in the comments, are you still tracking every dollar, or have you stepped back? And if you've stopped, what did you notice that's changed? Thank you so much for watching.